would also add, let's give a more concrete example, right? Rationing of care was the question before. Let's look at Michelle Obama. Now, we've had this interesting proposition. I write about it in my book. A man can hide what he believes, but the choice of women, especially the choice of a wife, often reveals a great deal about one's own character. So Obama has chosen Michelle Obama as his wife. Well, what was her business? She worked for the University of Chicago Hospital. She was in healthcare. Now, this is a very modern, state-of-the-art, world-class hospital that happens to be separated by just a few blocks from one of the worst inner-city ghettos, where there are a lot of poor black people who don't have any health care. So the problem that as they saw it, the University of Chicago saw, was that poor black people were coming out of the inner-city ghetto and coming into the University of Chicago Hospital emergency room and asking for treatment. So they needed to hire what amounts to a bouncer. They created a patient dumping scheme, and the head of the patient dumping scheme was Michelle Obama.
Just like Margaret Sanger said, we got to have blacks to kill these animals. We got to have a black to lead them to their death. And so she drives them over to the euthanasia or to the hospice or to the scum facility. And again, that's what she does. And they enjoy pimping. They enjoy hurting people. They enjoy scamming. They enjoy it. I mean, and you just see her eyes. She just radiates evil and whoredom. No, I'm serious.
But let's also add that in order to do this, Michelle hired David Axelrod to do a brainwashing campaign, essentially to dupe all the people. So the idea was that she was in charge of community relations, and community relations meant deploying a screen of bouncers to kick people out, but she had to smooth over the ruffled feelings of these poor people. One of their favorite methods was you'd go into the waiting room of the emergency room, and if you were black and you looked poor, they'd make you wait 4 or 5 hours. They'd simply ignore you and hope that you would walk out. So this is the mentality, and I think these examples, I think what's in the bill is important, but the mentality of the people carrying it out. How about Orsag, right? The bean counter, the pointy-headed bureaucrat, the head of the Office of Management and Budget. This person who has no medical credentials whatsoever is of the opinion that an MRI, a CAT scan, an ultrasound, an echocardiogram, an X-ray, this is too expensive.
These are the useless tests. I mean, the last 50 years, the most important devices they've got save tens of millions of lives. A basic test, you don't get it. But we see more examples of this. Notice he promised everybody all this free stuff. As soon as he got in, the speech he won that night, he said, it's going to be austerity. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. Exactly. How does he have half-brothers and brothers who are living in shacks on $1 a week? He won't help them. I mean, I help some of my family that doesn't have money. I mean, how would he not ever see his family? I mean, who is this Obama? You've studied his psychology. From watching him, he seems to really revel in conning people and lying to them. He's just a classic scam artist.
I would call him a narcissist and a megalomaniac. Now, it's interesting because we did have this interesting book, Bush on the Couch, by Dr. Justin Frank, I think, of George Washington University, which correctly diagnosed Bush as a megalomaniac, somebody with delusions of grandeur. I think we have another case of megalomania, in this case with the left-wing ideology. Obama as a narcissist. Obama who constantly refers to himself in his speeches in the third person. He always says, as I've said repeatedly, or I've said consistently that. This complete fascination with himself. He's now going to go to Martha's Vineyard to stay on a $30 million estate for the month of August, cavorting with the rich oligarchs, the famous New England Boston Brahmins, and hedge fund operators from Wall Street.
You couldn't pay me to do that. I mean, that's just nightmarish. All
the fried clams are good.
I don't know.
The fried clams are good, and my uncle used to live on Cape Cod, so I got something in favor of this. But the idea now, the narcissism, he is obviously addicted to adulation. He expects adulation, and you can see that into his mentality now, a moment of irritability is creeping in. If you saw the summit with Harper and Calderon there, Fecal.
No, he's looking more and more angry. Now when somebody doesn't answer what he wants, he tries to dominate. He tries to cut in like Spectre did today. They just are like, I'm going to make you love me, and I'm going to make you love eugenics, you little piece of trash.
I would say that we're seeing the beginnings, perhaps, of the psychological disintegration of Obama. In other words, the idea that he might lash out in rage. We've had Geithner with a temper tantrum chewing the carpet on Friday in a dispute with other regulators, fighting with Bernanke and Sheila Bair and the rest of them. Now, in that press conference in Mexico, Obama did this thing where he said, I'm somebody who always plays, a risky game. Or how did he say it? I don't go with the probability.